What if I told you one of the most groundbreaking hip-hop albums of all time was made in a basement, using kids' records, game show samples, and a Casio keyboard with less memory than your first pager? What if the rappers behind it weren't trying to be cool, but accidentally redefined cool forever? This is the story of how three teenagers from Long Island and a mad genius of a producer flipped hip-hop on its head. With no budget, no rules, and no idea just how far this weirdness would go. Welcome to the world of 3 Feet High and Rising. Let's get into it. In the late 80s, hip-hop was getting louder, brasher, and more aggressive. But while the genre was kicking in the door with high-top fades, boom bap, and braggadocio, three teenagers from Long Island were quietly creating a revolution. And they didn't even mean to. This is the story of how De La Soul and Prince Paul created one of the most influential, innovative, and flat-out weird rap albums of all time, 3 Feet High and Rising. It started with a basement, a cassette tape, and an idea that would rewrite the rules of hip-hop forever. Real quick, if you're enjoying the content, like and subscribe. It really helps our small channels out. Now let's get back to it. Kelvin Mercer, David Jolicoeur, and Vincent Mason, better known as Pasta Noose, Trugoy the Dove, and Maceo, are to us diehards, Plug 1, Plug 2, and Plug 3. Met in high school in Amityville, Long Island. Yes, that Amityville. They made some horror movies about it. The something horror. Oh well, not important. While their peers were obsessed with braggadocio and street cred, these three were more interested in poetry, jazz, psychedelia, and being, well, to put it mildly, a little bit different. Instead of gangster posturing, they talked about potholes and lawns, lunchroom conversations, and their love for being a little left of center. They weren't trying to be anything but themselves, and that, ironically, made them revolutionary. Enter Prince Paul.
Peace. Prince Paul's the name.
A DJ and producer, also from Long Island, already known for his work with the live hip-hop band Stetsasonic. Paul was searching for something fresh and unique when a mutual friend handed him a De La tape. It wasn't polished, but it was electric. They didn't sound like they were trying to be anyone else, Paul said. I thought, this is it. This is the future. The tape, containing early versions of plug tuning and freedom of speak, sparked a collaboration that would birth not just an album, but a whole new mindset in rap music. Their first studio, Paul's mom's basement in Amityville. A homemade setup with stacks of vinyl, a few battered samplers, and zero budget. However, out of this cluttered space came a bold new sound. Plug tuning was their first session together. Paul pulled samples from everywhere: Steely Dan, Liberace, Hall & Oates, French language records, game shows, you name it. De La brought surreal humor, poetic abstraction, and a complete disregard for the hip-hop norms of the day. Trugoy said, "We weren't trying to make hits. We were just trying to make something different than what was already out there." And my goodness, did they succeed. Now take a moment and comment below what your favorite track off the album is. Now Prince Paul, he didn't just create an album, he built a playground. The gear, modest. An SP12 drum machine and Sonic Mirage sampler, a Casio SK1 with little more than a second sample time, and a Tascam 4-track recorder. No Pro Tools, no digital anything, Paul told Wax Poetics. If the beat was off, you were starting over. Man, I remember those days. However, as a lack of resources usually does, it sparked creativity. Paul's sampling was eccentric, fearless. He didn't care if it came from Johnny Cash or a kid's record. If it sparked a feeling, you better believe it stayed. 3 Feet High and Rising wasn't just an album. It was an ecosystem. It introduced skits as a narrative device, something now standard in hip-hop today. Its mock game show format tied the songs together like a psychedelic movie. The skits were a thread that sewed together this beautiful tapestry. The samples were wild and plentiful. Over 60 uncleared samples, including Steely Dan's Peg, Otis Redding's Whistle from Sitting on the Dock of the Bay, Hall & Oates' I Can't Go For That, Johnny Cash, 5 Feet High and Rising, as well as Kool House Rock, and many, many more. The result? Tracks like I Know, Say No Go, and The Magic Number sounded like nothing else before or since. De La's lyrics were equally unorthodox. They weren't trying to be tough or flashy. They were funny, quirky, intellectual, and extremely abstract. And this made them extremely relatable. Lines flipped perspective mid-verse. Themes bounced from introspective to satire. We were just being ourselves, Pa said. We didn't know it was going to be important, but oh, important it was. 3 Feet High and Rising dropped on March 3rd, 1989 on Tommy Boy Records. Nobody expected it to work, not even the label. The artwork was psychedelic. The first single, Me, Myself, and I, it was anti-ego. And the album didn't sound like nothing else in rotation, but it clicked extremely hard. The album peaked at number 24 on the Billboard 200, eventually being certified platinum by the RIAA. Me, Myself, and I even hit number 1 on the rap singles chart. Critics called it the Sgt. Pepper of hip-hop. It landed on best of lists from Rolling Stone, The Source, to Pitchfork, and Spin. It was the new blueprint, one that made it okay to be weird, thoughtful, joyful, and most important, yourself in the genre of rap. However, the very thing that made the album revolutionary, the sampled heavy sound collage, became nothing short of a nightmare. For decades, 3 Feet High and Rising was absent from streaming platforms. We had to fight just to get our own legacy back, Maceo said. After disputes with Tommy Boy Records, years of contract wrangling, the album finally hit digital platforms in March 2023. Almost 34 years to the day of the album's initial release. De La Soul and Prince Paul didn't just make an album. They changed the rules of hip-hop. Their influence is visible in groups like A Tribe Called Quest, The Far Side, the late great MF Doom, Outkast, Tyler the Creator, and many, many more. They helped birth the Native Tongues Collective and gave rise to the alternative hip-hop lane that still exists in rap to this day. They made it safe to be different in hip-hop, said Questlove of The Roots. If Run DMC brought hip-hop into your living room, De La Soul and Prince Paul turned your living room into a dimly lit, surrealist museum with a talking toaster and a game show host. They didn't mean to start a revolution. They just wanted to be themselves. However, sometimes being yourself, that is the revolution. We weren't trying to be different, said True Boy. We just were. And thank God for that. But little did they know that 2,800 miles away in Los Angeles, 3 white boys from New York, roughly at the same time, were crafting an album that pushed the same boundaries, using hundreds of uncleared samples, as well as becoming the next masterclass in the art of sampling. They were making an album that you cannot talk about without mentioning 3 Feet High as its big brother. But that's for another video. Thank you for your support. Thank you for watching. Salute.